Over Easter weekend, I was listening again, on and off, to the BBC radio commentary of the Headingley Test against Australia last year. It's one of several matches that you might call the Ben Stokes game. We obviously don't have the rights to show you the final moments of that match, so we've done a sort of dramatic reconstruction for you.
And in comes Pat Cummins from the far end. He bowls to Stokes, who hammers it for four! And Stones there with the bat raised. I can't believe he's seen that.
It's one of those games where we'll always say to each other, where were you when that happens? You know, where were you when the game got to a climax? I know where I was. I was sitting outside a cafe in Wales, concentrating on my wife and children whom I was on holiday with, and in no way being distracted following the game on my phone. I still remember heading out from the holiday home, pretty despondent that England were down to their last batsman. It was just still 73 from victory. Everything said that it was over and Australia were about to win. It was just a matter of time. And then came the first stirrings of hope as Stokes started to hit six after six after six. Jack Leach at the other end of doing his valiant bit, but reduced to a spectator for much of it. Unbelievably, Stokes did it. He got England over the line. The crowd and the nation erupted. At one point, the BBC correspondent Jonathan Agnew said, "It is an incredible day." The funny thing was, as I listened again, I felt almost as nervous as the first time around. I knew he was going to do it in my head, but I couldn't quite believe it. I felt myself cheering every run. I shouted out loud when he hit that final four. If I didn't know for sure it had happened, it would have seemed too good to be true. It's the stuff that children and their parents recreate in the back garden and remind themselves of over and over again. On Easter Sunday, we remember something that so many of us have heard time and again. And for me, no matter how often I hear that Jesus is alive, I find myself as thrilled as if it's the first time. It's wonderful and new. I think of this story of a man conquering death and sin and hell, and I recognise if it weren't true, you just couldn't invent it. It is incredible, but so good. If you're listening now and it just seems like that, incredible, then stop and think for a moment of the millions of people like me through the ages who've heard this story, read it in the scriptures, realised it isn't a fairy tale. It isn't something just to wish for to help us through dark times like we're in now. Not something that doesn't really amount to anything in the long term, but it's the absolute head and heart and lived truth for us that Jesus, God's Son, is risen from the dead for our salvation, for our eternal life. For us, Jesus won. He won for us. Because that's how we feel, isn't it? We won. Jesus did it. He did it all, but we won. Forgiveness, salvation, eternal life, won for us. Endless is the victory, we sing. On that day last summer, most of us could only sit and listen. Most of the England team could only watch up on the balcony. Jack Leach was amazing, but he did a lot of standing and looking at the other end. He and Stokes were together for 62 balls. He only faced 17 of them. Ben Stokes did it. One man. But we won. Even now, many of us sit at home, or at least in the garden, as many other people, medical staff especially, fight a tremendous battle for us. All of them at the cost of their safety, many of them at the cost of their lives. And when we come out of the other side, thanks to them, at an awful cost, we will have won. Today, wherever you're watching this, and however you feel at these oddest of Easter times, know this. Jesus has won, so we have won. It's not what we did, but what he did for us, what we couldn't do. Only Jesus could win the battle over darkness and hell and sin and fear and death. And for all of us, as long as we believe and say, yes, Jesus did that for me, there's light and forgiveness and eternity and hope and life. It's not for one summer or one Easter. It's not just one incredible day. It's one after another, forever through Jesus. Happy Easter, everyone.